Last week, we reported that the Canon EOS R6 Mark III would be getting a resolution boost to 30 megapixels. Today, Craig Blair is suggesting we could get even more. How much more? What will it cost? I've got some good news and some bad news. I'll walk you through everything I've got step by step, and if you're serious about staying ahead of the latest camera gear, punch that subscribe button. It really helps this channel grow, and it keeps you in the loop. I love getting things right, and kudos to Jan for telling us that the EOS R6 Mark III was going to get a resolution boost. But I went further. With my sources, I was able to tell you that the R6 Mark III is going up to a resolution of 30 megapixels, or around 30 megapixels. Well, today, Craig Blair of Canon Rumors tells us this. It looks like we might get 30 to 32 megapixels on the Canon EOS R6 Mark III. And the readout speed will be between the EOS R1 and the EOS R5 Mark II, which is plenty fast for a CMOS sensor. That's very fast. I mean, that's between 6.3 milliseconds to 2.7 milliseconds. That's very fast. And considering that the R6 Mark III is going to have less resolution than the R5 Mark II, so 45 megapixels versus around 30 to 32 megapixels, that means that that readout speed is most likely going to be somewhere in the middle. So let's say 6.3, 2.7, that's going to be somewhere around, let's say 4 to 4.5 milliseconds. That's significant. That's significant enough that shooting electronic is going to allow you to be, well, to get the results as a wildlife photographer, as a sports photographer, anything fast action. This is very fast. Now, it's no global shutter fast, but still, we're talking about readout speeds on 30 to 32 megapixels that you're not going to notice any sort of rolling shutter. And there are certain situations. For example, if you're getting up really close to a batter and that's swinging the bat through the frame, there's a chance there that, yes, you're going to see some bending of the bat. But if you're out a little bit further, and depending on the angle of the bat, you're not going to notice that. 4.5, anything less than 6.3 milliseconds is pretty incredible. Now, with the R5 Mark II, in certain situations where balls are moving very, very fast, you might see the ball become a little bit elliptical. But soccer, basketball, football, you're not going to notice anything. Doing motorsports, you're not going to notice anything. This is really significant. So what else do we know about the R6 Mark III? Many rumors have come out over the past year, and clearly they're just made up. So how do we separate the wheat from the chaff? Well, according to Canon Rumors, a nice person at Canon said that the EOS R6 Mark III would have a new type of EVF, as well as a new flipping mechanism for the LCD on the back, which we have mentioned prior. Maybe I missed something here, but it sounds like Canon Rumors has a source directly within inside Canon themselves. That's a big deal. That's a pretty big deal. Though it kind of makes you wonder why we couldn't have gotten more, how shall we say, accurate information on the R6 Mark III a little bit sooner, like back in the fourth quarter of 2024 when it was first scheduled to be announced. But that's okay. I'm not bitter. I think this is good news. I really do. I mean, the R6 Mark III with 30 to 32 megapixels is right in that sweet spot for a lot of people. And I do feel validated that after watching Jan's post, I was able to do a little bit of research, and, you know, based on what I heard, it's going to be 30 megapixels. So to have Canon Rumors come out and say their source within Canon is saying 30 to 32 megapixels, that makes me feel good, because I don't put out videos just to get clicks. I mean, I do want to see the clicks. I'm an overachiever. I want to see my videos do very, very well. But I want them to be based on a foundation of truth and transparency. I'm not one of those people who just wants to do everything for that almighty dollar. That's not me. I'm too old. It's you know how you are. I know how I am, and that's just me. So anyhow, 30 to 32 megapixels. That's a really good deal. That's a really good sweet spot. The readout speed is going to be less or faster than what we have with the R5 Mark II. So it's going to be less than 6.3 milliseconds. Probably somewhere between 4 and 5 milliseconds, which is really incredible for this camera. But that begs the question about some other things. So what about noise at high ISO. What we saw with the Canon EOS R5 Mark II is by increasing the readout speed, that does affect the low noise, right? The ability to be able to produce really good images. And the R6 Mark III is also aimed at, there are going to be wildlife photographers that want this. It's going to be enough resolution. And you just want to take a look at the R5 Mark II, because what's happened is when shooting in high ISO like 12,800, there's certainly more noise than there is with the Mark I. So this is most likely going to go with a stacked sensor. That's how I see them going ahead with this. It's at the very least going to be a backside illuminated, most likely stacked, an all-new sensor. So you might see a slight fall off in terms of low noise performance. I'm having trouble getting my thoughts to the front of my brain at this point. So that's one aspect. But on the other side, it also means that the dynamic range should be a whole lot better. Now with the R5 Mark II, what we're seeing is that when it comes to video, oh my God, there's a huge difference. And with Canon Log 2, with waveforms, wow, it is so much easier to get really good video, to expose it properly. Zebras, waveforms, and Canon Log 2, it just makes it an absolute dream. I love shooting with that camera. But on the still side, well, it depends on whether you're shooting mechanical, whether you're shooting electronic, what light level you're shooting at, what ISO level you're shooting at, as to what the dynamic range is. So I'm not going to speculate at this point, but I would suspect that we might see a bit of a fall off, but the photo sites should be bigger because we're dealing with a slightly lower resolution. Well, significantly lower resolution. So that brings us to the price. What do you think about price? Now this is where, remember I said we had some good news and some bad news? Well, it depends on where you're living as to whether you've got some good news or you've got some bad news. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Yes, the Canon EOS R6 Mark III is going to cost more than $2,499. We're pretty confident that it's going to stay below $3,000. Yeah, it's going to stay below $3,000. Yeah, what, a penny below $3,000, like $29.99.99? I don't know, but whenever somebody says, oh, it's less than, you know it's not far less than that price. So I don't know. I don't know if Canon Rumors is just forecasting that it's not, at worst, it's going to be $29.99.99, or if they have a price, they're not able to say it right now, and it's $29.99.99. That's the main reason for that. We're seeing this with a lot of camera gear right now. Sigma, we've seen prices go up by 10%. The reason for that is the tariffs against Japan are 10%. Pretty well everywhere in the world, you're going to see a 10% tariff levied. So that's the primary reason for the big jump in price. So that's unfortunate. But you know what? This tells me we're getting closer to an announcement, because now, remember what I said a couple of weeks ago? You know, if we're close, we're going to start getting more accurate information. Stuff is going to start coming out. So all the leaked specifications that I've got here, that's what I would count on. Anything that we've seen in the past, just forget it, bury it deep down inside. Don't let it come up again. Leave it deep down in there and forget about it. Let's just focus on what we have here and build upon that in the coming weeks and months. And who knows, maybe we might have a summer announcement. It's happened before with the R6, right? With the first one, the R6 Mark I, we had a July announcement. But, you know, at this point, we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. If you're part of the 1% that likes to, well, know a little bit more, get behind the scenes, well then click that join button and take a look at a couple of options I have for you. I have an insider option, which for $9.99 allows you to get behind the scenes of this channel, where I put out videos every week showing you behind the scenes what goes on, but you actually get to determine what those videos are. You get to ask questions. We also get to do private live streams where you get to be a part. You get to come into the live stream. You get to interact like we do with our public live streams as part of that guest expert live panel. And if you like it enough, and if it's something you enjoy, you could actually be promoted to our public announcements as part of our expert live panel. So that's something I'm trying to build up, because I'm finding as this channel's growing, it's becoming harder and harder to respond to all the comments and questions. It really has become a problem. And I've got a lot of regulars, Kathy, Mike, Tony, John, so many of you that tune in on a daily basis, that you comment and ask questions, Werner. I'm having trouble lately following up with that. So one of the reasons I've set up the memberships is, so I told you about the Insider, the one that's $1.99 a month. Whenever you guys post comments, you get priority over others. So I see your comments first. so you get priority response. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give back to those of you that have supported this channel from the very beginning. It doesn't mean I'm not going to continue to answer questions and support the comments throughout the videos. It's just I'm getting older. I'm having trouble sleeping. I'm trying to protect my sleep, which means it's cut down on the amount of time that I can actually put towards comments because I'm spending more time on production. I don't know if you've noticed that. The production quality is better. I'm producing more. So that is, you got to cut time somewhere. And unfortunately, it's been in the responding to the comments and questions. For everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for supporting this channel. I'm still seeing some really good deals on the Canon EOS R5, Mark I, Mark II, various lenses. We haven't seen those jacked up in price lately. So that's good news. So based on the release price, we're seeing lower, much lower prices, at least for Canon, also for Nikon. And if you're interested in purchasing any of that gear, I've got a lot of links in the description down below. For Adorama, B&H, or Amazon.com, please consider using my links down below because it really does support this channel and help keep the lights on. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.